Hey everybody! In this video, I'm showing off my build process for a Bellflower kitchen. It's one of my favorite furniture styles, but I also think it's one of the most difficult to create a kitchen out of. I also wanted to make it somewhat functional, while also keeping it small and cozy. Fair warning, I'm going to be doing a lot of crazy techniques. Please go check out my techniques video for a more in-depth explanation of how this all works. I'm not going to be going over it in too much detail in this video. My intent here is really just to show off my process, show what you can accomplish, and maybe inspire some people. So let's get started. So this is the space I'm working with, just a small room, starting with the rose and madder tile floor. On the walls, I'm using the marble wainscoting and finishing it up with a floral felicity wallpaper, just accent wall. It's one of my favorites. Then I'm going to get started with an anchor point, something I use in a lot of builds. I'm stacking 5 of these planks up here, and I'm going to place a pillar on top, grabbing the entire stack. And I'm not placing it, I'm just moving it out of the way, canceling the placement. Again, not placing the pillar, I'm moving it back to the center. And here I'm finally placing a plank actually on the pillar. Not on the floor, but on the pillar. Then I'm going to place a dresser on there. And I'm just going to move that out of the way again so I can place, finally, the pillar. And this gives me the pillar attached to a flooring that's in the ground. And the reason why I do this is because I want the Bellflower countertop to be even with the stove. Otherwise, it gets too high. If you look at it, normally it's just way too tall to be a realistic counter. It just looks way off, which is really what I think is the hardest part about making a kitchen with Bellflower. So I'm just moving this out of the way. Again, not placing it, just canceling the move. And then I'm going to take this pillar and I'm going to put it right here in the corner where it'll be hidden. And underneath there is the plank under the ground. And you can see it there. On this plank is where I'll be building on to get things below the ground. So I'm just putting this up on here just to raise this up so I can start building on it. And I'm going to add some more planks. That's pretty good. And then I'll get the counters put in place. Starting with a few of these. I'm going to also put the stove here just so I can see the space I need between them. Add another one. I want them to overlap a bit, about 2 spaces. So I'm going to move this, not place it, but cancel the move so I can place this, and they'll overlap once that slingshot's back to where it was. And I'm just moving this out of the house so I can place the pillar here. Once I place it, everything snaps back to where it was initially. And then the stove will go right about there. See how this is coming along. So I have this set up outside now. And I'm just going to rearrange this a bunch just to get the spacing right. I wanted to flip this around, move these over a tad, put them back, and I went back and forth on this quite a bit to get the proper spacing that I liked. And as you can see, when I change it to the double doorway, the pillar's hidden. That's the idea here. I don't like that space there, so I'm going to change that again. I can't move it over any, so I'm actually going to grab this, move it over, but not place it. And then I'm going to replace this So when I grab this and finally place it, it slides the table or counter over. Now when I place it, it's more flush with the wall. No weird space there. Alright, now I'm gonna do a island. Add another plank. This will be the island in the middle of the kitchen. I want these also to overlap. I'm just moving it out of the way, canceling the placement, and then placing the other one. I want this to go here as an extension to the counters. Moving this out of the way, not placing again, just canceling. This I'm placing here and moving the whole thing out of the way. And placing, as you can see, it's coming along. There's the island. I don't like how this is so far up. I want to bring it down a bit. So moving these all down and putting it back. I think that looks much better. But there's that huge space behind there. So I'm going to push all of this further back into the wall. That looks much better. Alright, so the next thing I want is to add a lip to the island. A little bar type thing. I don't know what you'd call it. So what I'm doing here is I'm placing something on top of this shelf so I can alt select it. The reason why I do that is so I can place it on top of the pillar. When I'm alt selecting the bowl, which then allows me to place the bowl on the pillar. Otherwise, I can't place the shelf on the pillar. As you can see, it just doesn't go anywhere. That's just a workaround to get it to do what I want. If you're unfamiliar with that technique, I'll link a video down below that goes over the alt select technique. And I spent way too much time going back and forth trying to get this perfectly even. Way more time than I care to acknowledge.
One eternity later.
So eventually I got it level in a level-ish way that I like. So once I have that in the right height, I just am eyeballing where I want the pillar to go. And I'm placing more pillars just as markers. And then grab the anchor pillar. There's something in the way. Pick up this stuff, move this stuff back. Alright, so this is the anchor pillar, so this is the pillar that the shelf needs to actually go on. Not placing, just canceling. I'm going to move this back to the wall because Alt-Select grabs everything on the stack, and I don't want the stack to include the pillar that it was just on. So I'm putting on top of the anchor pillar. And place. This is actual placing. Then I'm going to grab the base and place it. Everything snaps back. There you go. A little lip or bar. I'm going to do it one more time for the other half. Grab the base in place. Snaps back. There you go. Put everything back in the kitchen just to get another look at how this is coming along. So now what I'm doing is I want to create a backsplash for the counter. And I'm going to be using stone walls for this. These are all connected, placing that out of the way and moving this as close as I possibly can, and it snaps the rest of the wall back that I canceled out of the way. But it's not showing up quite in the right position, so I'm going to grab a section of wall, and I'm going to cancel the move again. I'm going to bring this a bit closer. Place. And now you can barely see it sticking out, but it's not tall enough. I also want to change the window because I want a full-size window here. But I know where it needs to go at least. That's. I'm just making another marker for the exact position. I want to put a building down just so I can move this building out of the way. And then what I'm going to do is just put those right there on the ground. Put that as close to the wall as I can. Then I'm going to move all this stuff out of the way. Just move it, cancel the placement, put the room back, swap over to a different plot, and then swap back, which will slingshot everything back to where it was moved from and canceled. That puts them against the wall in a pretty good spot. Need to correct some placement. Move the house again. They're not tall enough, so what I'm doing to solve that problem is add another wall here just to raise it up. Both of these, put that closer to the wall, and they look much better. Put the counters back, and you can see I got my stone backsplash. Looks pretty good. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is add pillars for the bar or lip for the island. To do that, I'm putting it on top of a building block, a single building block, because it gives me the exact height of the floor of the room. Building blocks are always the exact same height of the building. And I can't just put this on the ground because it's too tall. I want it to shrink down into the earth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack 3 of these, put a block on top, move it out of the way, cancel placement, put the block back in the same exact spot, cancel placement, but without the 3 stack of planks, and place the pillar on the block and place the block, and now is in the ground the height that I want it to go. And I just do that 2 more times. Put the kitchen back, move the room out of the way. But I didn't move the kitchen. I left the kitchen there, but moved the room. This allows me to line up the pillars so they're covering up. Now I'm going to move the room out of the way and move everything else out of the way. This can be a bit tedious at times. And then I'm going to reload the plot again after moving the room back. Gets everything snapped back into place, and there are the pillars. And I'm just going to add a few things to this side of the room. Nothing too difficult here. Except I ran into this problem where this, for some reason, would not go against the wall. It sticks out way too much. So I use the Alt Select technique. Push the bowl on top, highlight the bowl, and Alt Select the whole thing, which then allows me to more clip it into the wall. Looks much better that way. And the next thing I wanted to do is add some shelves. My favorite shelves are the makeshift bookshelf. Luckily I have a ton of these from all the fishing I do. And I want this to be a bit high, but that's way too high. So try doing this again. And placing the bookshelf again. And this time, it's good height. I want it to be just below the counter. Moving that out of the way. Bring the pillar back, and this time I can't because I forgot that the pillars are sticking out of the ground. So I gotta move those out of the way. Now I can place the kitchen bookshelf with it. I don't like the angle, so I do that again. There. That looks much better. These are too high, so I'm bringing these down. And taking a look, backsplash is still intact, and the shelves are right above it. If you don't have this bookshelf, one of my other favorite things to do is use these planks as shelves. And how you can do that is place a pillar on top of the shelf, and then Alt-select from the pillar, and it lets you just place it on the wall, because pillars can just go onto the walls. Just trying to get it lined up. And I'm not doing anything special here. I'm just, again, Alt-selected the pillar, so that's what's being placed, and then I can just pick up the pillar because it's on top and do it one more time. I can't go too high. This doesn't really let you go any higher than the center of the wall. So to finish it off, you can add some homestead shelves, but I like the makeshift one. That was just another idea. This is where the stove's gonna go. Just need to get everything out of the way, get it lined up, and it's a lot easier to do this just by doing the obstacle flicking technique. However, I don't have another stove, so I did the inventory flicking technique, the original technique for this. I don't really do this much often. It's not as easy to do. Basically, I'm flicking the item off the bug jar so fast that the game client gives me a split second to place the stove. If I had a second stove, I would just do the obstacle flicking technique. But I didn't, and it worked out anyway. It ended up being too far out, so I did it a second time, and it worked out much better that time. For the oven, simple solution. Add a hallway, put it in the back, maybe add some wallpaper and shelf. Ultimately, I didn't do this. I didn't like the way it looked. I wanted to keep things as tight-knit, small as possible. So what I did is I went with a hallway combined with a fireplace. When you do this, make sure you do the wallpaper on the outside first, because you won't be able to later. And you can do this solo, but I did it with 2 accounts, just because it's easier with 2 accounts. If you're interested in knowing how to do this solo, maybe I could make a video on that too. But I have one account that places the hallway, and the other account that places the fireplace, and they do it at the same time. You'll see the fireplace will highlight red in a second. That's the other account grabbing the fireplace, and they place them at the exact same time. I do this for my PC and for my Switch, and they overlap that way. It's a little bit too far in, so I ended up pulling it closer, but as you can see, it works. If you want an easy way of adding the mixing stations and prep stations, you can just clear this space here and add them in. I don't really like the way these stations look, and I hate doing things the easy way, so I ended up not doing this, but again, just showing this as an idea. What I ended up doing, I was taking a plank with a block on top, cancel that out of the way, put the block back, cancel the placement, and putting a prep station on top, and that shrinks it down a bit. I'll do it again with the other station, mixing station this time, And I'll take both of these out back and place them just, again, on the ground. Move things out of the way. And I want these to not just be close, but I want them to overlap. To do that, I'll need to move these a bit. And these blocks tend to want to snap together, and I don't like that. But I eventually get it. Overlap just enough. Just canceling the movement of things out of the way. And once I have it in the position I want, then I move everything out of the way. Again, I'm not placing anything, I'm just canceling it out of the way. This lets me put the room back. Because I'm now dealing with stations, I can't just reload the plot by going to another plot. I actually have to leave my whole plot for the stations to snap back to their original placement. But once I get back in, you'll see everything's back, and the stations are now in the counters. Yeah, still fully functional. I don't like the way these stations look, and I wish I could hide them easier. For this part that's sticking out in the back, my solution was to hide it with blocks. I'm using the obstacle flicking technique. As you can see, it took me a long time to get it to work. Doesn't always work the first time for me either. And this is the end result that I have. I ended up going with a red color. I like the red color. A lot of clutter. Very cozy vibes. As you saw with the overlapping counters, they tend to flicker. My solution to that is to kind of just hide them. Place things on top of those flicker spots. Like this big cornucopia. But I hope you found this video helpful. I have this whole plot up on the signboard this week. Please come check it out. Give me a positive rating. I recently just did this whole plot, and I had a lot of fun with it. If you see anything on the plot that you end up really liking, would like to see a video on it, let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching.